A poor single mother was shivering beneath a leaking, run-down bus stop when she suddenly noticed an old man standing across the street, soaked, trembling and unsteady as he staggered straight into the path of oncoming traffic. Without a moment's hesitation, she dashed out, yanked him out of the way of a roaring truck, and guided him into a nearby convenience store to warm up. Even though she hadn't eaten all day, she used her last $5 to buy the old man a steaming bowl of soup. What she didn't know was that the frail stranger she had just saved was actually a billionaire, and that this small act of kindness would soon change her life forever. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The rain came down in sheets that afternoon, turning the cracked pavement into a maze of puddles. Sienna Carter stood under the sagging awning of the bus stop, watching water drip through a hole in the fabric onto her worn sneakers. She didn't bother moving her foot. What was the point? She was already soaked from the walk here. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, saw her mother's name, and let it go to voicemail. She couldn't handle that conversation right now, not after what just happened. We're looking for someone with more commitment to their career path. That's what the interviewer had said, his eyes scanning her resume like it was contaminated. Translation: we don't hire college dropouts who took 3 years off to have a kid. Never mind that she'd been top of her class before everything fell apart. Never mind that she could do the job better than half the people already working there. Sienna counted the bills in her pocket without taking them out. $5. That's what she had left until Friday, and it was only Tuesday. The bus fare home was $3.50. That left her $1.50 for what exactly? Milk for Emma was $4. Her mom's blood pressure medication was $60, but she'd already skipped 2 doses this week. Across the street, someone caught her eye. An old man stood in the rain without an umbrella, completely still, like a statue someone had forgotten to bring inside. He wore what might have been an expensive suit once, but now it hung off his thin frame, darkened with water. In his hands, he clutched a torn plastic bag close to his chest, protecting whatever was inside like it was made of gold. He was staring right at her. Sienna looked away, then looked back. He was still staring, his eyes wide and desperate in a way that made her stomach clench. Something about his expression reminded her of Emma. When she woke up from a nightmare, that same confusion mixed with fear, like the world had suddenly become a place he didn't recognize. The old man took a step toward the street. Cars whipped past their tires, sending up sprays of dirty water. "Oh no," Sienna heard herself say. He took another step right to the edge of the curb. A delivery truck barreled toward him, horn blaring, but the old man didn't seem to hear it. He was looking at Sienna like she was the only solid thing in a world that had turned to water. Sienna's body moved before her brain caught up. She ran into the street, grabbed the old man's arm, and yanked him back, just as the truck roared past close enough that she felt the rush of wind against her face. "What are you doing?" she gasped, still holding his arm. "You almost—" The old man's hand shot out and gripped her wrist, his fingers surprisingly strong. He was trembling, his whole body shaking like a leaf, but his grip didn't waver. Up close, she could see he was older than she'd thought, maybe 75, with deep lines carved into his face and silver hair plastered to his skull. "Alice!" His voice cracked on the name. "Alice, is that really you?" Sienna tried to gently pull her hand away, but he held on tighter, his eyes filling with tears that mixed with the rain on his cheeks. "I'm not," she started, but he cut her off. "I've been waiting at the school gate just like always." "Where have you been?" "It's raining, sweetheart. You should have called me. I brought your favorite snack." He held up the plastic bag with shaking hands. Inside, Sienna could see a crushed granola bar and what might have been an apple brown with age. Her chest tightened. She'd seen this before, back when her grandmother was alive. The way the present would just slip away sometimes, leaving only fragments of memory that didn't fit together right anymore. "Sir," she said softly, "I think you're confused. My name's Sienna. I'm not Alice." But he wasn't listening. He was looking at her with such pure relief, such complete joy, that something inside her cracked a little. "Dad's been so worried, Alice, so worried. Come on, let's get you out of this rain. You'll catch cold." He tried to pull her across the street, back toward where he'd been standing. Sienna glanced around, hoping to see someone who might know him, someone who could help. But the street was nearly empty, everyone with enough sense having already found shelter from the storm. The few people who passed by kept their heads down, wrapped up in their own problems. She looked at the old man again. His suit, despite being soaked, was clearly expensive. The watch on his wrist was the kind she'd only seen in store windows. But none of that seemed to matter to him now. Right now, he was just a scared, confused old man who thought she was his daughter. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Let's get out of the rain." His face transformed. The fear melted away, replaced by a smile so bright it made her throat tight. He kept hold of her hand as she led him toward the small convenience store on the corner, the only place nearby with an awning big enough to keep them both dry. "I knew you'd come," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I told everyone you'd come back. My Alice always comes back." The store clerk looked up as they entered, his expression shifting from boredom to suspicion as he took in their soaked clothes and the way the old man was clinging to Sienna's hand. "We're just getting out of the rain," Sienna explained quickly. "Do you have any hot soup? Back corner microwave's broken, though. There's a hot water dispenser next to the coffee." Sienna guided the old man to the small seating area near the back, 3 plastic chairs and a wobbly table. He sat down heavily, still clutching his plastic bag, still smiling at her like she'd just saved his entire world. Maybe she had in a way. For him in this moment she had. She grabbed a cup of instant soup from the shelf, checked the price. $2.50. That would leave her with exactly $2.50. Not enough for the bus, and definitely not enough for Emma's milk. But looking at the old man, watching the way he shivered in his wet clothes, she couldn't walk away. Her phone buzzed again. This time she looked at the screen. A text from her mother. "Emma's crying for milk. When are you coming home?" Sienna's thumb hovered over the screen. She glanced at the $5 bill in her hand, then at the old man, then at her phone. The walk home was 10 kilometers, in this rain, with her thin jacket and worn shoes that were already falling apart at the seams. She put the phone back in her pocket and poured hot water into the soup cup. "Here," she said, setting it in front of him. "Careful, it's hot." The old man looked down at the soup, then up at her, his eyes wet with fresh tears. "You always knew chicken noodle was my favorite," he whispered. "Even when you were little, you'd save your allowance to buy me soup when I worked late." Sienna didn't correct him. She just pulled off her thin cardigan, the only dry layer she had left, and draped it over his shoulders. Underneath, she wore just a tank top, and the store's air conditioning immediately raised goosebumps on her arms. He wrapped the cardigan around himself like it was a cashmere blanket, his fingers clutching the worn fabric. "Tell me about your day at school," he said carefully, lifting a spoonful of soup to his lips. "Did you finish that history project you were working on?" Sienna sat down across from him, her wet jeans sticking uncomfortably to the plastic chair. Outside, the rain pounded harder, turning the street into a river. She thought about her daughter at home, hungry and crying. She thought about her mother probably trying to calm Emma down while hiding her own pain from missing her medication. She thought about the 10-kilometer walk ahead of her, every step taking her further into the storm. But right now, in this moment, there was just an old man who needed someone to be his daughter, even if only for a little while. "The project's going great," she said quietly. "I think I'll get an A." His smile could have lit up the whole store. "That's my girl," he said. "That's my Alice. I always knew you were special." Sienna watched him eat each careful spoonful and tried not to think about the long walk home. Tried not to calculate how many hours it would take, how wet she'd be by the time she got there, whether Emma would still be awake or if she'd cried herself to sleep, waiting for her mother to come back. The old man reached across the table and patted her hand with his wrinkled fingers. "Thank you for coming back to me," he said. "I thought I'd lost you forever." And despite everything, despite the impossible situation and the storm and the empty wallet and the long walk ahead, Sienna felt something warm spread through her chest. Sometimes she thought the smallest acts of kindness cost the most, but that didn't make them any less worth doing. She squeezed his hand gently and smiled even as her phone buzzed again in her pocket, even as the rain showed no signs of stopping, even as she realized she'd just chosen a stranger's comfort over her own daughter's milk. What kind of mother did that make her? But when she looked at his face, so peaceful now, so certain that his daughter had finally come home, she couldn't bring herself to regret it. Not yet, anyway. 20 minutes had passed when Sienna heard the commotion outside, car doors slamming, voices shouting. The old man looked up from his soup, his forehead creasing with worry. "What's all that noise, Alice? Are those people coming for us?" Before Sienna could answer, the convenience store door burst open so hard it crashed against the wall. A man in an expensive suit stood in the doorway, his hair dripping wet, his chest heaving like he'd been running. Behind him, 2 police officers and what looked like a private security guard crowded into the small store. The man's eyes swept the store frantically until they landed on the old man. His entire body sagged with relief. "Dad," he breathed. "Dad, thank God." He rushed forward, but the old man shrank back in his chair, pressing closer to Sienna. His hands gripped the edge of the table knuckles white. "Who are you?" the old man demanded, his voice sharp with suspicion. "Stay away from us. Alice, tell this man to leave us alone." The younger man stopped dead, his face crumpling. Sienna saw the pain flash across his features before he quickly masked it with a tight smile. "Dad, it's me. It's Daniel, your son." "I don't have a son," the old man said flatly. "I have Alice, that's all I need." One of the police officers stepped forward, his hand resting on his radio. "Sir, are you the young lady who called this in?" "I didn't call anyone," Sienna said quickly. "I just found him in the street, about to walk into traffic. He was confused, so I brought him inside." Daniel turned to her for the first time, really looking at her. His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. Up close, she could see he was probably in his mid-30s, with the kind of face that would be handsome if it wasn't so drawn with worry. "Thank you," he said, his voice rough. "I've been searching for 3 hours. He disappeared from the house while the nurse was changing shifts. We had every available person out looking." The security guard moved closer, and the old man's grip on Sienna's hand tightened painfully. "Alice, don't let them take me. Please don't let them separate us again. Not like before. Not like that day." His voice broke, and he started to shake soup sloshing over the edge of his cup. "Dad, please," Daniel said, reaching out. "Let's just go home. You're wet and cold. We need to get you checked by the doctor." "No." The old man's shout made everyone in the store freeze. He stood up so fast his chair clattered backward. "You're trying to take Alice away. That's what you all did before you told me she'd come back, but she never did. You're liars. All of you are liars." He wrapped both arms around Sienna's shoulders, burying his face against her wet tank top like a frightened child. She could feel him trembling, could feel the rapid thump of his heart against her arm. Daniel's jaw worked silently. One of the police officers stepped forward. "Sir, we can call for medical assistance if needed." "No," Daniel said sharply. "No sedation. Not if we can avoid it." He looked at Sienna, and she saw something desperate in his eyes. "Please, can you help me? He clearly trusts you. If you could just come with us to the house just until our family doctor arrives. He can give Dad something gentle to help him relax, help him remember. But if we try to force him now..." Sienna glanced down at the old man clinging to her. She thought about Emma, about her mother, about the long walk home that was getting longer by the minute. "I don't know if that's a good idea," she started. "I'll pay you," Daniel said quickly. "Whatever you need. Gas money, your time, anything. Please. I can't..." His voice cracked. "I can't watch him go through another sedation. The last time it took him days to recover. It's like it steals more of him away each time." The old man lifted his head, looking up at Sienna with watery blue eyes. "You'll come with me, won't you, Alice? You won't leave me again." Sienna felt her resolve crumbling. She pulled out her phone and quickly typed a message to her mother. "Something came up. We'll be a few hours late. Get Emma the milk on credit for Mrs. Chen. I'll pay her back." She looked at Daniel. "Just until your doctor arrives. That's it." The relief on his face was almost painful to see. "Thank you. God, thank you." Getting the old man to the car was like coaxing a spooked animal. He refused to let go of Sienna's hand and wouldn't get in unless she sat right next to him. Daniel's Mercedes was spacious enough that they both fit in the back, with Daniel driving and the security guard in the passenger seat. The police officers stayed behind, radioing in that the missing person had been found safe. As they pulled away from the convenience store, Sienna caught sight of her reflection in the window. She looked half-drowned, her dark hair plastered to her skull, her tank top clinging uncomfortably to her skin. The old man still wore her cardigan over his expensive suit, and somehow that detail made her want to laugh and cry at the same time. "What's your name?" Daniel asked, catching her eye in the rear-view mirror. "Sienna. Sienna Carter. I'm Daniel Harrison. This is my father, Robert Harrison." He paused. "Has he been calling you Alice the whole time?" Sienna nodded, and she saw his hands tighten on the steering wheel. "Alice was my sister," he said quietly. "She died 20 years ago, car accident. She was 18. Dad never really recovered from losing her." The old man's head rested against Sienna's shoulder, now his breathing evening out. He hummed softly some tune Sienna didn't recognize. "She used to hum that song," Daniel said, his voice barely above a whisper. "When she'd do her homework, Dad would sit in his office and he could hear her through the walls. He said it was the most peaceful sound in the world." Sienna looked down at the old man, at the contented smile on his sleeping face, and felt something twist in her chest. "The Alzheimer's started about 3 years ago," Daniel continued. "Mild at first. Names, dates, small things. But this past year, it's gotten worse. He keeps going back to that time before we lost her. In his mind, she's still alive, still in high school, still coming home every day. He forgets she's gone, and then we have to watch him lose her all over again every time he remembers." They drove through a part of the city Sienna had only seen from bus windows. Tall iron gates, perfectly manicured lawns, houses that could fit her entire apartment building inside them. The Mercedes turned onto a tree-lined driveway that seemed to go on forever. The Harrison mansion rose up before them like something from a movie. 3 stories of pale stone windows that glowed with warm light columns flanking a front door that looked like it belonged to a museum. "Holy!" Sienna breathed, then caught herself. Daniel gave her a tired smile in the mirror. "It's excessive, I know. Dad built it when his company went public 30 years ago. My mother wanted something grand. Dad just wanted to make her happy." He pulled up to the front entrance, where a woman in a nurse's uniform was waiting, wringing her hands anxiously. She rushed forward as soon as the car stopped. "Mr. Harrison, I'm so sorry. I was only gone for 5 minutes to use the restroom, and he must have slipped out the side door." "We'll discuss it later, Nancy," Daniel said, not unkindly. "Right now, let's just get him inside." But as soon as they tried to help the old man out of the car, the peaceful moment shattered. His eyes flew open, and he grabbed for Sienna with renewed panic. "Where are we, Alice? Where did you bring me? This isn't our house." "Dad, this is your house," Daniel said patiently. "You've lived here for 30 years. "Liar. Our house is on Maple Street. The blue one with the white shutters, Alice, tell him." Sienna climbed out of the car, still holding his hand, and the old man followed, pressing close to her side. Daniel shot her a grateful look. The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. Marble floors, a chandelier that probably cost more than Sienna would make in 10 years, a sweeping staircase that split into 2 directions. But the old man didn't look at any of it. His eyes stayed locked on Sienna. "Can I get you something dry to wear?" Nancy offered, eyeing Sienna's soaked clothes. "I'm fine," Sienna started, but Daniel interrupted. "Nancy, please bring some clothes from Charlotte's room, and something warm to drink." Nancy hurried off, and Daniel led them into what he called the family room, though it was bigger than Sienna's entire apartment. A grand piano sat in one corner, family photos covered the walls, and a massive fireplace crackled with fresh logs. The old man sat down on the leather sofa, pulling Sienna down next to him. He still wore her cardigan, and he pulled it tighter around his shoulders. "This is Alice's favorite sweater," he told Daniel proudly. "She always loans it to me when I'm cold. She's such a good girl, my Alice, always taking care of her old dad." Daniel's eyes met Sienna's, and she saw him swallow hard before looking away. Nancy returned with clothes, a soft sweater, and sweatpants that looked expensive, even in their simplicity, and Sienna changed in a guest bathroom that had more space than her bedroom at home. When she came back, she found Daniel standing by the piano, his fingers resting on the closed lid. "He won't sleep," Daniel said without turning around. "He keeps asking for you. Says Alice needs to play piano for him, like she used to do before bed." Sienna's stomach dropped. "I don't really play. I mean, I took lessons as a kid, and I taught some basic stuff to children for extra money, but I'm not." "Please." Daniel turned to face her. "You don't have to be good. You just have to try. The doctor is stuck in surgery, won't be here for another 2 hours. If I try to give Dad his medication now, without the doctor here to monitor him, and he fights it," he rubbed his face, "I can't force-feed pills to my own father. I can't hold him down while Nancy injects him with sedatives. I can't do that to him again." From the family room, they could hear the old man's voice rising in agitation. "Where's Alice? Alice, don't leave me alone." Sienna walked back into the room. The old man's face brightened instantly. "There you are. I thought you'd gone. Promise me you won't go, Alice. Promise me." "I promise," Sienna heard herself say, and hated how easily the lie came. "Will you play for me, like you used to? You always played so beautifully." Sienna sat down at the piano bench. The keys were pristine ivory, the kind that probably cost more than her car used to before it died. She pressed middle C, and the sound that came out was perfect, rich, and clear. She didn't know what to play. Her mind went blank. Then, almost without thinking, her fingers found the notes to Claire de Lune. It was the one piece she'd managed to learn all the way through in high school before she'd had to quit lessons because they couldn't afford them anymore. Her playing was rusty, halting in places, but she made it through. When she finished, she heard a soft sound behind her. The old man was crying silently, tears streaming down his weathered cheeks, but he was smiling too. His eyes closed his head, leaning back against the sofa. "Just like that," he whispered. "Just exactly like that. You haven't forgotten Alice. You haven't forgotten anything." Within 5 minutes, his breathing had evened out. His head tilted to one side, and he slept, truly slept, with that same peaceful smile on his face. Nancy appeared with a blanket and gently covered him. "That's the first time in 6 months I've seen him fall asleep without medication," she whispered. "Usually we have to give him something, and even then he fights it for hours." Daniel stood frozen by the doorway, staring at his sleeping father. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "Have you eaten?" Sienna realized she hadn't. Her stomach answered for her, growling loudly enough that Daniel almost smiled. "Come on, the kitchen's this way." The kitchen was industrial-sized, all stainless steel and granite countertops. Daniel pulled containers from the refrigerator, moving with the efficiency of someone who was used to taking care of himself, despite having staff to do it for him. "My sister Alice would have been 38 this year," he said, as he reheated what looked like gourmet pasta. "She died the day before her high school graduation. Drunk driver ran a red light. Sienna didn't know what to say, so she stayed quiet. She was the baby of the family. There's 3 of us. Was 3 of us. Charlotte's the oldest, then me, then Alice. There was 6 years between me and Alice. I was already in college when it happened." He set a plate in front of Sienna, the smell making her mouth water. "Charlotte was in Paris studying art. Dad called us both home. I don't think Charlotte ever forgave him for making her cut her trip short, even though it was for Alice's funeral." "I'm sorry," Sienna said softly. Daniel sat down across from her with his own plate, but he didn't eat. He just stared at the food like he'd forgotten what it was for. Dad was never the same after. He was always a workaholic, you know, built his company from nothing. But after Alice died, he threw himself into work like he could bury himself in it. 16, 18-hour days. Holidays, weekends, it didn't matter. I think he was trying to outrun the grief. "Did it work?" Sienna asked. "No. It just caught up with him in a different way." Daniel finally took a bite of his pasta, chewed mechanically. "The Alzheimer's diagnosis came 3 years ago. The doctor said stress can be a contributing factor. All those years of pushing himself, never sleeping, never stopping to process what happened. His brain just gave up, I guess." Sienna ate slowly, trying not to seem too hungry, even though she was starving. The pasta was incredible, some kind of cream sauce with vegetables she couldn't even name. "In his mind now, it's perpetually the week before she died," Daniel continued. "He's stuck in that last good week. When Alice was still alive, still happy, still his little girl. He wakes up every day thinking he needs to pick her up from school. That's where he was trying to go today when you found him. He was looking for Alice's high school." "That's why he thought I was her," Sienna said. "Because I was standing near a bus stop in the rain and he thought it was a school." "Maybe. Or maybe." Daniel looked at her carefully. "You do look a bit like her. Not exactly, but there's something. The way you tilt your head. Your eyes, maybe. Alice had kind eyes like yours." Sienna's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and saw 3 missed calls from her mother and a text. "Mrs. Chen gave us milk on credit." Emma finally stopped crying. "Where are you? You need to go," Daniel said, reading her expression. "I've kept you too long already. Your doctor should be here soon, right?" "In about an hour." Daniel pulled out his wallet. "Let me at least pay you for your time. And for the soup you bought Dad." "You don't have to." "Please." He laid $500 bills on the table between them. "It's nothing compared to what you did. You kept my father safe. You kept him calm. You gave him a few hours of peace. That's worth more than I can ever repay." Sienna stared at the money. $500. That was Emma's milk for 2 months, her mother's medication for a month, the overdue electric bill, the notice from their landlord about back rent, but taking it felt wrong somehow. Like she was being paid for pretending to be a dead girl. "Take it," Daniel said gently. "Please. And," he hesitated, "if you're not doing anything tomorrow, would you consider coming back? Just for a few hours, I know it's a lot to ask, but seeing him like that, so peaceful, so happy, I haven't seen him like that in years." "I don't know," Sienna said. "I understand. I do. But think about it." He pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "That's my personal cell. Call me if you change your mind, or if you don't. Either way, thank you for what you did today." Sienna pocketed the money and the card. Nancy called for Daniel from the other room, something about needing him to sign papers for the doctor. "I should go," Sienna said, standing. Daniel walked her to the front door, where a cab was already waiting. "I called it for you," he explained. "Already paid. He'll take you wherever you need to go." As Sienna climbed into the cab, she looked back at the mansion. Through the window, she could see the family room, see the old man still sleeping peacefully on the couch, her worn cardigan still draped over his shoulders like a security blanket. The cab driver asked for her address, and Sienna gave it, then leaned her head against the cool window. $500 in her pocket. $500 she'd earned by letting a sick old man believe she was his dead daughter. She should feel guilty. She knew she should, but all she could think about was the way he'd smiled when she'd played piano. The way he'd finally slept without fighting, without fear, without the medications that turned him into a zombie. Her phone rang. Her mother. "Sienna, baby, where have you been? I've been worried sick." "I'm sorry, Mom. Something came up. I'm on my way home now." "Did you get the job?" Sienna looked at the bills in her hand. "Yeah, Mom. I think I did." Sienna told herself she wouldn't go back. She woke up the next morning, got Emma dressed and fed, helped her mother with her medication, and spent 3 hours updating her resume on the library's computer. She applied to 7 jobs. None of them called back. By 2 in the afternoon, she was sitting on the floor of her apartment, sorting through bills she couldn't pay when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello? Sienna, it's Daniel Harrison." Her stomach did a strange flip. "Hi. I know you didn't call, so I figured that meant you weren't interested in coming back, but I had to try one more time." He sounded tired. "Dad woke up this morning asking for Alice. When I told him you couldn't come today, he got upset. He hasn't eaten anything, won't take his medications. He just sits by the window, looking out at the driveway, waiting." Sienna closed her eyes. "Daniel, I know what I'm asking isn't fair. I know you have your own life, your own family, but I'm desperate here. The medications aren't working anymore. The therapy isn't working. He's getting worse, and I don't know how to help him. But yesterday with you, he was himself again. Not the confused, frightened man he's become. He was my dad." Through the thin walls of her apartment, Sienna could hear her neighbor's TV blaring someone's dog barking, Emma laughing at something her grandmother was showing her. "What exactly are you asking?" Sienna said finally. "Come work for me. For us. As Dad's companion. Just spend time with him. Let him think you're Alice. I'll pay you $50 an hour." Sienna's mouth went dry. $50? Is that not enough? I can go higher? No, that's generous. That's very generous. Her mind was racing. $50 an hour. If she worked even 20 hours a week, that would be $4,000 a month. More than she'd ever made in her life. "There's more," Daniel continued. "There's a guest house on the property. 3 bedrooms fully furnished. You mentioned you have a daughter and your mother lives with you. They could stay there. Free rent, utilities included. We have a full-time chef, so meals are covered. And our family doctor could look after your mother's medical needs. No cost." Sienna couldn't breathe. This wasn't real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. "Why would you do all this?" she whispered. "Because yesterday was the first time in 3 years I saw my father at peace. Because I've hired the best caregivers, the most expensive specialists, tried every medication and therapy available, and nothing works. But you walked into his life for 2 hours and he was happy. Really, truly happy. That's worth everything to me. I'd be lying to him every day. Would you?" Daniel's voice was quiet. "Or would you be giving him the one thing modern medicine can't, the belief that his daughter is still alive, still with him, still loves him? Is that a lie or is that mercy?" Sienna looked around her tiny apartment, at the water stains spreading across the ceiling, at the window that wouldn't close all the way, letting in drafts even in summer, at the stack of overdue notices on the counter. "When would you need me to start? Is today too soon?" 3 hours later, Sienna's mother sat on their worn couch staring at her like she'd grown a second head. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Margaret Carter said slowly. Some rich man is offering you $50 an hour to spend time with his father who has Alzheimer's and thinks you're his dead daughter, and he's also offering us a free place to live on his property. Yes, and you're seriously considering this. I already said yes, Mom. Margaret's face cycled through several emotions: shock, worry, hope, and finally landing on something that looked like resignation. Sienna, baby, I know money's tight. God knows I know. But this sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. Sienna sat down next to her mother, taking her weathered hands. But I met him, Mom. Mr. Harrison. He's not dangerous or creepy. He's just sick and confused and sad. And when I was there yesterday, just for a few hours, he was happy. You should have seen his face. But pretending to be his dead daughter. I'm not pretending to be anyone. I'm just not correcting him when he calls me Alice. That's all. Sienna squeezed her mother's hands. Mom, they're offering us a real home. 3 bedrooms. A place where Emma can play outside without worrying about broken glass and needles in the grass. Where you can see a doctor regularly without us having to choose between your medications and groceries. Where I can actually save money for once in my life instead of drowning a little more every month. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. What if this all goes wrong? What if they decide they don't need you anymore and we end up back here, except we've lost this apartment because we couldn't pay rent while we were gone? Then we'll figure it out, like we always do. But Mom, Sienna's voice cracked. What if it goes right? What if this is the break we've been waiting for? What if this is how we finally get out? Margaret pulled Sienna into a hug, and they sat there on the couch for a long time. Emma crawling up to join them, not understanding why the grown-ups were crying, but knowing enough to pat their faces with her tiny hands until they smiled. 2 days later, they moved into the guest house. It wasn't just a guest house. It was a small mansion of its own. Hardwood floors, a kitchen with appliances that actually worked, bathrooms that didn't have mold in the corners. Emma's room had a window seat that looked out over a garden, and Margaret's room had an ensuite bathroom with a tub big enough to soak in. Sienna stood in the middle of her own bedroom with its queen-sized bed and walk-in closet and had to sit down before her legs gave out. "This is really happening," she said to the empty room. That first morning, Daniel met her at the main house at 7. "Dad usually wakes up around 7:30, he explained as he led her through the mansion. "He's better in the mornings, more lucid sometimes, though that can be harder actually because he's more likely to remember Alice is gone." They reached the old man's bedroom, and Daniel paused with his hand on the door. "If this ever becomes too much for you, if you want to quit, just tell me. No judgment. I know what I'm asking isn't normal." "I won't quit," Sienna said, surprising herself with how certain she sounded. Daniel opened the door. The room was large, but surprisingly simple. A bed, a dresser, photos everywhere. The old man was sitting up in bed looking out the window with a distant expression. "Dad," Daniel said gently, "someone's here to see you." The old man turned, and his face transformed the moment he saw Sienna. "Alice, you came." He threw back the covers and rushed to her, pulling her into a tight hug. "I thought yesterday was a dream. I thought you weren't real." "I'm real, Dad." Sienna said the word dad catching in her throat but coming out smoothly enough. "I'm here. Don't leave me again. Promise you won't leave me." "I promise." He held her at arm's length, studying her face like he was memorizing it. "You look tired. Did you stay up late studying? I told you to get more sleep." "I'll sleep better tonight," Sienna said. "Want to have breakfast with me?" His smile could have powered the whole house. "Pancakes. Can we have pancakes like we used to?" "Whatever you want." They spent the morning together. Breakfast turned into a walk through the garden, where the old man pointed out flowers and told her stories about planting them with his wife years ago. Then they sat in the sunroom, where he did a crossword puzzle, while Sienna read a book Nancy had given her about Alzheimer's care. "You're good at this," Nancy said quietly when the old man dozed off in his chair. "It usually takes new caregivers weeks to learn how to redirect him, but you're doing it naturally." "I don't feel like I'm doing anything special," Sienna admitted. "That's exactly why it works. You're not trying to be a caregiver. You're just being with him." By the end of the first week, Sienna had fallen into a routine. Mornings with Mr. Harrison, afternoons when he napped, and she could spend time with Emma, evenings playing piano or listening to his stories. Daniel was there often, watching from doorways, his expression unreadable. On Friday evening, as Sienna was getting ready to leave for the night, Daniel stopped her. "There's something I need to tell you. My sister Charlotte is coming home tomorrow." The way he said it made Sienna's stomach clench. Is that a problem? Daniel looked uncomfortable. Charlotte is complicated. She's been living in Europe for the past 5 years. She and Dad don't have the best relationship. And when I told her about this arrangement, she wasn't exactly supportive. She thinks I'm taking advantage of him. She thinks I'm being taken advantage of, Daniel corrected. Charlotte has always been protective of the family's interests. She'll probably want to meet you assess the situation. I just wanted to warn you. Okay, Sienna said slowly. I can handle that. But Daniel's expression said he wasn't so sure. Charlotte Harrison arrived on Saturday afternoon in a whirlwind of expensive perfume and designer luggage. Sienna was in the garden with Mr. Harrison watching him prune roses with shaking hands when she heard heels clicking on the stone path. She looked up and saw a woman striding toward them like she owned the world. And technically, Sienna supposed she did own part of it. Charlotte was striking in a way that made Sienna immediately conscious of her discount store jeans and plain t-shirt. Perfectly styled blonde hair, a pantsuit that probably cost more than Sienna's car, used to jewelry that caught the sunlight and threw it back like tiny explosions. Well, Charlotte said, her voice sharp and cold. So you're the miracle worker my brother's been telling me about. Mr. Harrison looked up from his roses, his face scrunching in confusion. Who are you? Something flickered across Charlotte's face so fast Sienna almost missed it. Pain raw and deep, but then it was gone, replaced by a tight smile. It's me, Dad. Charlotte, your daughter. I don't have a daughter named Charlotte, Mr. Harrison said matter-of-factly, turning back to his roses. I have Alice. That's her right there. He pointed at Sienna proudly. My Alice came back to me. Charlotte's jaw clenched. She looked at Sienna with eyes that could have frozen fire. I need to speak with you. Privately. Sienna glanced at Mr. Harrison, who was humming to himself, already forgetting the interaction. Nancy appeared from the house, and Sienna nodded to her. Nancy took over with the roses, while Sienna followed Charlotte back to the house. Daniel was waiting in his office, looking like a man preparing for battle. Charlotte, please, he started, but she cut him off with a raised hand. Let me get this straight, Charlotte said, turning on Sienna. You met my father exactly once in a convenience store, and now you're living on our property collecting $50 an hour and letting a sick old man believe you're his dead daughter. That's not exactly, Sienna began. That's exactly what's happening. I've done my research on you, Miss Carter. Dropped out of college after 2 years. Single mother. History of debt. And now, suddenly, you're living in our guest house, eating our food, and playing dress-up as the daughter my father actually loved. The words hit like slaps. Sienna felt her face flush, but she kept her voice steady. I'm helping your father. That's all. You're helping yourself, Charlotte shot back. Don't pretend this is charity. You saw an opportunity and you took it. I almost admire the hustle, really. Charlotte, that's enough, Daniel said firmly. Sienna has been incredible for Dad. He's calmer, happier, eating better, sleeping through the night for the first time in months. Of course he is, because someone is feeding his delusion instead of helping him face reality. Charlotte's voice rose. She's not Alice Daniel. Alice is dead. She's been dead for 20 years. And every day you let this continue. Every day you let him believe the lie. You're making it worse. Worse for who? Daniel's voice was quiet but intense. For Dad, who finally has peace, or for you, who has to watch him be happy with someone who isn't you. The room went silent. Charlotte's face went pale, then red. How dare you, she whispered. It's true, isn't it? You're not angry that Dad thinks Sienna is Alice. You're angry that Dad is happy with Alice even in his delusion when he was never that happy with you. Charlotte's hand flew up, and for a second Sienna thought she was going to slap Daniel. But she stopped herself, her whole body shaking. You have no idea what it was like, Charlotte said, her voice breaking. Growing up in Alice's shadow. Perfect Alice, brilliant Alice, Dad's favorite Alice. And then she died. And somehow, she became even more perfect in death than she ever was in life. I've spent my entire life competing with a ghost, Daniel. And now you've hired someone to play that ghost, and I'm supposed to just accept it. Sienna felt something shift in her understanding. This wasn't about money or suspicion. This was about a daughter who'd never felt loved enough now, watching her father shower affection on a stranger. I'm sorry, Sienna said quietly. I can't imagine how hard that must be. Charlotte whirled on her. Don't you dare pity me. You don't know anything about this family, about what we've been through. You're right, I don't. Sienna met her eyes. But I know your father is sick and scared and confused, and when I sit with him, when I let him call me Alice, he's not scared anymore. Is that really so terrible? Yes, Charlotte said flatly, because you're temporary. Eventually you'll leave, or he'll die, or something will happen. And then what? He'll lose Alice all over again. You're setting him up for another heartbreak. He has Alzheimer's, Daniel said gently. He loses her and finds her again every single day. At least this way, more often than not, he finds her. Charlotte looked between them, her expression hardening. Fine. You want to play this game? Let's play it. But know this, Miss Carter. I will be watching you. Every move, every interaction, every penny you spend. And the moment I find proof that you're taking advantage of my father, I will end this arrangement so fast your head will spin. She swept out of the room, leaving a wake of tension behind her. Daniel sank into his desk chair, rubbing his eyes. I'm sorry. I should have handled that better. She has a right to be angry, Sienna said. She has a right to her feelings. She doesn't have a right to take them out on you. He looked up at her. Are you okay? Do you want to quit? I would understand. I'm not quitting, Sienna said firmly. Your father needs help. Charlotte's anger at the situation doesn't change that. Thank you, Daniel said softly, for understanding, for staying. But as Sienna walked back to the guest house that evening, she couldn't shake the look in Charlotte's eyes. It wasn't just anger. It was hurt, deep and old, the kind that never fully healed. She wondered how it felt to lose a sister and then lose your father's love to that same sister's memory, to be the daughter who was still alive, but somehow still came second. That night, Sienna lay in bed and thought about calling this whole thing off. It would be easier, cleaner. She could find another job, maybe not one that paid as well, but one that didn't come with such complicated family dynamics. But then she thought about Mr. Harrison's face that morning. The way he'd lit up when he saw her, the way he'd taken her hand and said, I'm so glad you're here, Alice. I don't know what I'd do without you. And she thought about Emma sleeping soundly in a room with no mold, no sirens through the night, no fear. About her mother who'd seen their family doctor twice this week and finally had her blood pressure under control. She couldn't give that up. Not yet. Not even for Charlotte's pain, as real as it was. The next morning, Sienna was having breakfast with Mr. Harrison when Charlotte appeared in the dining room doorway. She stood there silently watching her father butter his toast and chat with Sienna about some TV show he thought he'd watched the night before. Good morning, Dad, Charlotte said, her voice carefully neutral. Mr. Harrison looked up, his forehead creasing. Do I know you? I'm Charlotte, your daughter. My daughter is sitting right here, Mr. Harrison said, gesturing to Sienna with his knife. You must be mistaken. Dad, please, it's me, Charlotte. I grew up in this house. Remember, I used to help you in your office, organizing your files. You taught me about the business. Mr. Harrison's expression grew agitated. I don't know what you want, but you need to leave my daughter alone. Alice, do you know this woman? It's okay, Sienna said, gently placing her hand over his. She's a friend. She's not going to hurt us. Mr. Harrison relaxed slightly, but kept a suspicious eye on Charlotte. Charlotte stood frozen, her face a careful mask, but Sienna could see her hands trembling at her sides. I just wanted to have breakfast with you, Charlotte said, her voice smaller now. Like we used to. We never had breakfast together, Mr. Harrison said, dismissively returning to his toast. I had breakfast with Alice. Every morning before school. Charlotte's mask cracked just for a second. Sienna saw tears well in her eyes before Charlotte blinked them away, straightened her shoulders, and walked out of the room without another word. Sienna felt sick. Later that afternoon, she found Charlotte sitting alone in the library, a photo album open on her lap. Sienna almost left, but something made her stay. That's you, Sienna asked, pointing to a photo of a young girl, maybe 10 years old, standing stiffly next to Mr. Harrison. Charlotte's thumb brushed over the photo. My 8th grade science fair. I won first place. Dad was supposed to come, but he had a meeting. He showed up for the last 5 minutes, took this photo, and left. Her voice was flat. Alice was there the whole time. She was only 7, but she sat through every presentation cheering for me. Sienna sat down in the chair across from her. I'm not trying to replace her, or you. Aren't you? Charlotte looked up, and her eyes were red-rimmed. You're living the life I wanted, the one where Dad is happy to see me, where he smiles when I walk in the room, where he wants to spend time with me. He's sick, Charlotte. The way he's acting, it's not about you. It's not even really about me. It's about Alice and his memory of her, and the way his brain is trying to hold on to something that's already gone. I know that, Charlotte whispered. Logically, I know that, but it doesn't make it hurt less. They sat in silence for a moment. For what it's worth, Sienna said, I think Alice would be proud of you. For coming back. For trying even when it's hard. Charlotte's laugh was bitter. You didn't know Alice. Nobody really did except Dad. She was his favorite, his perfect little girl. The rest of us were just there. She closed the album with a snap and stood up. I meant what I said yesterday. I'll be watching you. Not because I think you're a bad person, but because I can't watch my father get hurt again. I've lost enough. After she left, Sienna stayed in the library looking at the photo albums. There were dozens of them chronicling the Harrison family through the years. And in every single one, in every family photo, every Christmas morning, every birthday party, Mr. Harrison's hand was on Alice's shoulder. His smile was brightest when she was next to him. Even in photos where all three children were present, his body language always angled toward Alice. No wonder Charlotte felt invisible. That evening, as Sienna was playing piano for Mr. Harrison, before bed, she saw Charlotte standing in the hallway, half hidden in shadow, watching. When Sienna played the final notes and Mr. Harrison drifted off to sleep, Charlotte stepped forward. That's the song Alice used to play, she said quietly. Claire de Lune. She practiced it for months to surprise Dad on his birthday. I didn't know, Sienna said. It's just the only piece I know all the way through. Charlotte stared at her for a long moment. Then, without warning, she walked over to a display cabinet and pulled out a small box. This is what Alice was buried in, Charlotte said, opening it. Inside was a delicate pearl necklace. Mom wanted her to have it. It was supposed to be for Alice's wedding day, but she didn't finish. She held it out. Dad's been looking for this for weeks. He wants to give it to Alice. To you. I can't take that, Sienna said immediately. I'm not giving it to you. I'm telling you where it is so when Dad asks for it, you know. Tomorrow afternoon he's going to remember it. He always does around this time of month. It was around this time that Alice died. Charlotte, just don't lose it. And don't think this means we're friends. I still don't trust you. But if you're going to play my dead sister, you should at least have the complete costume. She left the box on the piano and walked away. Sienna looked down at the pearls gleaming softly in the lamplight. They were beautiful and sad and heavy with history. She didn't touch them. Charlotte was right. The next afternoon, Mr. Harrison became agitated during lunch. He pushed away his soup and stood up, his hands fluttering anxiously. The pearls, he muttered. Where are the pearls? I need to give them to Alice. For her graduation. Your mother wanted you to have them. Dad, it's okay, Sienna said gently. I don't need. No, you don't understand. They're important. Your mother made me promise. She made me promise before she... His voice broke. Where are they? Did someone take them? He started pulling open drawers in the sideboard, his movements growing more frantic. Nancy appeared concern on her face. Mr. Harrison, please, you need to calm down. Your blood pressure. Someone stole them. Mr. Harrison's voice rose to a shout. Someone stole Alice's pearls. Call the police. We need to call the police. Sienna met Nancy's worried eyes. This was escalating fast. If they didn't calm him down, they'd have to call the doctor, and that meant sedation, which Daniel wanted to avoid. Wait here, Sienna said. She ran to the library, grabbed the box Charlotte had left, and rushed back. Mr. Harrison was near tears now, his face red, his breathing labored. Dad, Sienna said, holding out the box. Look, I have them. They were in my room. I was keeping them safe, remember? He blinked, his panic receding slightly. You have them. Right here. She opened the box, showing him the pearls. His entire body relaxed. He took the box with shaking hands, his eyes filling with tears. These were your mother's. She wanted you to wear them on your wedding day. You'll be the most beautiful bride, Alice, just like your mother. He fumbled with the clasp, trying to put the necklace on Sienna. Dad, really? I can put it away for safekeeping. No, you should wear them. Please. It would make me so happy. His hands were shaking too badly to manage the clasp. Sienna gently took the necklace and fastened it around her own neck. The pearls felt cool and heavy against her skin. Mr. Harrison stepped back, his eyes shining. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Your mother would be so proud. From the doorway, Sienna heard a sharp intake of breath. She turned to see Charlotte standing there, her face pale, her eyes fixed on the necklace. I've been begging him to let me wear those for 15 years. Charlotte said, her voice barely above a whisper. For my wedding, for my anniversary, for anything. He always said no. That they were Alice's. That they'd always be Alice's. Charlotte, I didn't. But Charlotte was already gone. That evening, Sienna tried to take the necklace off, but Mr. Harrison got upset every time she reached for the clasp. No, no, those are yours. Keep them on. Promise me you'll keep them safe. So she wore them to bed feeling like a thief, even though she'd been given permission by the only person who seemed to matter in this house. She should have known something was coming. The next morning started normally. Breakfast with Mr. Harrison, a walk through the gardens, lunch on the terrace. But Sienna noticed Charlotte watching from various windows, her expression unreadable. At 2 in the afternoon, Charlotte entered the family room, where Sienna was reading to Mr. Harrison. Daniel needs to see you in his office, Charlotte said. It's urgent. Sienna hesitated, but Nancy appeared to sit with Mr. Harrison. Go ahead, dear. I'll keep him company. Daniel's office felt different today, colder somehow. He stood behind his desk with his arms crossed, and Charlotte stood by the window. The family's head of security, a man named Richard, whom Sienna had only met once, stood by the door. Is everything okay? Sienna asked. That's what I'd like to know, Charlotte said, her voice sharp. Richard, would you please tell us what you found this morning? Richard looked uncomfortable. I was doing a routine check of the security feeds and noticed something odd. The safe in Mr. Harrison's study was open last night at 2 a.m. Sienna's stomach dropped. Okay. The only people with the combination are Daniel, Charlotte, and myself, Richard continued. But Charlotte was in her room. Her door camera confirmed it. Daniel was still at the office, and I was home with my family. I don't understand what this has to do with me, Sienna said, even though she was starting to get a very bad feeling. Charlotte turned from the window. The safe was opened using the correct combination. Someone who knew the code. Someone who's been in this house observing learning. I don't know the combination to any safe, Sienna said firmly. Really? Because there's something else. Charlotte walked to Daniel's desk and picked up a folder. I had a very interesting conversation with your former landlord, Miss Carter. It seems you owe 3 months back rent. You also have outstanding debts to several credit agencies. In total, you're in debt for approximately $15,000. Sienna's face burned. That's from medical bills for my mother and student loans. I've never hidden that from anyone. I told Daniel about my financial situation when he hired me. $15,000 would be a powerful motivator for someone in your position, Charlotte continued. And then there's this. She nodded to Richard. Richard pulled out a plastic evidence bag. Inside was the pearl necklace. We found this in your bag this morning, Richard said. The purse in your room at the guest house. What? Sienna's voice came out as a whisper. That's impossible. I was wearing that necklace. Mr. Harrison asked me to wear it. Were you wearing it this morning? Charlotte asked. Sienna's hand flew to her throat. The necklace was gone. She'd been so focused on getting Mr. Harrison ready for the day that she hadn't noticed. I must have taken it off when I was getting dressed, but I would have put it in my jewelry box, not my purse. Convenient, Charlotte said coldly. You took it off, put it in your bag, and what were you planning to sell it? Those pearls are worth over $50,000. I wasn't going to sell anything. Sienna's voice rose. This doesn't make sense. Why would I steal something that Mr. Harrison gave me permission to wear? Because wearing it and owning it are two very different things, Charlotte said, and because you saw an opportunity, a confused old man, a valuable piece of jewelry, and a family who wanted to trust you. Sienna turned to Daniel, who'd been silent this whole time. Daniel, you know me. You know I wouldn't do this. But Daniel's face was closed off, unreadable. Did you take the necklace and put it in your purse? No, I mean, yes, I took it off, but I didn't put it in my purse. I would never. But you admit you took it off, and you can't remember where you put it. Sienna felt the ground shifting under her feet. This is crazy. Someone is setting me up. Charlotte, you gave me the necklace in the first place. I told you where it was, Charlotte corrected. I never said you should take it, and I certainly never said you should remove it from the property. The evidence is pretty clear, Richard said quietly. The necklace was found in your personal belongings. Your financial situation gives you motive, and you have had access to Mr. Harrison's private spaces where the safe combination might have been visible. Daniel, Sienna pleaded, you can't believe this. Why would I risk everything for a necklace? I have a good job here, a safe place for my family. Why would I throw that away? $15,000 in debt, Charlotte said. That necklace would solve all your problems. So would my salary. Sienna's voice cracked. I'm making good money here, More than I've ever made in my life. I wouldn't risk that for, wouldn't you? Charlotte stepped closer. You grew up poor, Miss Carter. You're a single mother with a sick parent and mounting debts. Can you honestly tell me you never looked at this house, at our belongings, and thought about how unfair it is, how easy it would be to just take something? No, Sienna said firmly. I never thought that. Not once. But she could see it in their faces. The doubt, the suspicion. Even Daniel, who'd been so kind, so understanding, was looking at her like she was a stranger. I think it's best if you collect your things and leave, Daniel said quietly. I'll pay you through the end of the week, and we'll consider the matter closed. No police, no charges. Just go. You're firing me. Sienna couldn't believe this was happening. Based on what? A necklace in my purse that I didn't put there. Based on the fact that I can't trust you anymore, Daniel said, and his voice held a note of sadness that somehow made it worse. I wanted to trust you. I did trust you. But Charlotte's right. The evidence is there. Sienna looked at Charlotte, who stood with her arms crossed, her expression triumphant, but somehow also sad. You did this, Sienna said. You planted that necklace in my bag. That's a serious accusation, Charlotte said. Do you have any proof? Do you have any proof I stole it? Sienna shot back. Other than the fact that it was found in my bag, which anyone could have put there. Miss Carter, Richard said gently, I think it's time for you to go. Sienna wanted to scream. She wanted to flip over Daniel's desk to grab Charlotte and shake her until she admitted what she'd done. But what would that accomplish? They'd already made up their minds. Fine, Sienna said, her voice cold. I'll go. But I'm telling you right now, I didn't steal anything. And when your father wakes up tomorrow and asks for Alice, when he starts having panic attacks again because I'm gone, you remember that you chose to believe a planted piece of evidence over the person who actually helped him. She turned to leave, but Daniel's voice stopped her. Sienna, did you really not take it? She turned back, and for just a second she saw doubt in his eyes, a flicker of something that looked like regret. No, she said simply. I didn't take it. But it doesn't matter now, does it? You've already decided. She walked out of the office, through the mansion's halls for the last time, and back to the guest house. Her mother looked up from where she was playing with Emma, her face going pale at Sienna's expression. We need to pack, Sienna said. We're leaving. What? Why, what happened? They think I'm a thief. Sienna's voice was flat. Charlotte planted that pearl necklace in my bag and convinced Daniel I stole it. So we're done here. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. Sienna, no. Where will we go? Back to the apartment, I guess, if it's still available. If not, Sienna's voice broke. I don't know, Mom. I don't know. They packed quickly, 3 suitcases holding everything they'd brought, plus a few things the Harrisons had given them. Sienna left those things in a pile by the door. She wouldn't give Charlotte any more ammunition. As they were loading the suitcases into the old car that Sienna had borrowed from a friend, she saw him. Mr. Harrison stood at his window, his face pressed to the glass, watching them. Even from this distance, Sienna could see the confusion on his face. She couldn't wave. She couldn't smile. She just got in the car and drove away. In the rear-view mirror, she saw him banging on the window, his mouth open in what looked like a shout. But she couldn't hear him, and she didn't look back again. Her phone rang. Daniel. She didn't answer. It rang again and again. Finally, she pulled over and answered. Sienna, wait. Don't leave yet. I need to think about this. There's nothing to think about, Sienna said. You made your choice. You chose to believe Charlotte over me. I hope it works out for you, Daniel. I really do. But I'm done. Please, just come back for one more day. Let me review the security footage, see if there's something we missed. You won't find anything, Sienna said, because Charlotte's too smart for that. She knows where all the cameras are. She grew up in that house, and she wanted me gone, so now I'm gone. Congratulations to her. Sienna. She hung up. That night, lying on a borrowed air mattress in her mother's friend's living room, their old apartment had been rented to someone else. Sienna stared at the ceiling and tried not to cry. She'd had it all for one beautiful week. A real home, meaningful work, enough money to pay off her debts and start saving, a chance at a different life. And it was all gone now, ripped away by a bitter woman who couldn't stand to see her father happy with anyone else. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Dad's asking for you. He won't stop crying. Please call me back. Sienna turned off her phone and tried to sleep, but she couldn't sleep. At 3 in the morning, Sienna finally gave up and sat in the dark living room watching the street through the window. Emma was curled up on the air mattress with her grandmother, both of them sleeping fitfully in the cramped space. Her phone powered on automatically for the emergency setting and immediately buzzed with missed calls and texts. 17 from Daniel, 3 from Nancy, even one from Richard the security guard. She opened Daniel's text, telling herself she was just checking to make sure Mr. Harrison was okay. That's all. Dad won't sleep. He's tearing the house apart looking for you. He tried to leave the property 3 times. We had to lock the doors. Please call me back. I made a mistake. I know I did. Just please call me. He's having chest pains. The doctor is here. That last one was sent 20 minutes ago. Sienna stared at the phone, her thumb hovering over Daniel's number. She should call. She should check if Mr. Harrison was okay. But if she did, she'd get pulled back in, and she couldn't afford that. Not emotionally. Not practically. Her phone rang Nancy's number. Sienna answered. Thank God, Nancy breathed. Sienna, I know what happened, and I know you're angry, but please, Mr. Harrison is in crisis. He's convinced someone kidnapped you. He's having a cardiac episode. The doctor gave him something to calm down, but he's fighting it, and if he doesn't relax his heart, I can't come back, Sienna said. They think I'm a thief. I don't think you're a thief, Nancy said firmly. I've worked in this house for 10 years. I know what Charlotte is capable of when she's hurt and angry. Please, Sienna, I'm not asking for them. I'm asking for him. Sienna closed her eyes. She thought about Mr. Harrison's face at breakfast yesterday, the way he'd smiled at her over his coffee, the way he'd told her about the first time he'd taken Alice to the zoo and how she'd cried because she thought the monkeys were sad. Okay, she whispered. I'm coming, but just to see him to make sure he's okay. Then I'm leaving again. She woke, her mother explained where she was going, and drove back to the Harrison mansion. It was 4 in the morning, the sky still dark, the house lit up like a beacon. Nancy met her at the door, her face haggard with exhaustion. He's in his room. Daniel is with him, but he won't listen to Daniel. He just keeps calling for you. Sienna climbed the stairs, her heart pounding. She could hear Mr. Harrison's voice before she reached his room, weak and desperate. Alice, where's my Alice? They took her again. I couldn't protect her. She pushed open the door. The room was a disaster. Drawers pulled open, clothes thrown everywhere, furniture overturned. In the middle of it all, Mr. Harrison sat on the floor in his pajamas. Daniel crouched beside him, trying to get him to take medication. Dad, please. You need to calm down. Your heart can't take this. My heart doesn't matter, Mr. Harrison's voice cracked. Not without Alice. Where is she? What did you do with her? I'm here, Sienna said from the doorway. Mr. Harrison's head whipped around. His face transformed from anguish to pure joy in an instant. Alice, they said you were gone. They said... He tried to stand, stumbled, and Daniel caught him. Sienna rushed forward, taking Mr. Harrison's other arm. Together she and Daniel helped him to the bed. I'm here, Sienna said softly, brushing his hair back from his sweaty forehead. I'm sorry I was late. I got held up. Don't leave again. Mr. Harrison clutched her hand so tightly it hurt. Promise me you won't leave again. I promise, Sienna lied, because what else could she say? He finally relaxed his breathing, evening out. Within minutes he was asleep, his hand still holding hers. Sienna sat on the edge of the bed, not daring to move, and realized Daniel was still there, standing on the other side, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. You came back, he said quietly. For him, not for you. I know. Daniel ran his hand through his hair. It was the first time she'd seen him looking anything less than perfectly put together. Sienna, I owe you an apology. A huge one. I should have trusted you. You should have believed me. Sienna cut him off. When I told you I didn't take that necklace, you should have believed me. Instead, you chose to believe Charlotte's setup. I know I did. And I've been going over the security footage all night, trying to figure out how I missed it, how Charlotte could have planted it without being seen. She grew up in that house, Sienna said tiredly. She knows where every camera is. Of course, you didn't see anything. Actually, Daniel said slowly, I did see something. I just didn't realize what I was looking at until about an hour ago. Sienna looked up sharply. I had nanny cams installed in Dad's room 2 weeks ago, Daniel continued. Small ones hidden in the smoke detectors and the bookshelf. I didn't tell anyone about them because I wanted to monitor Dad's health without him knowing he was being watched. I didn't want him to feel like he was in a hospital. Hope fluttered in Sienna's chest, and I went back through every second of footage from the past 48 hours. Daniel pulled out his phone, pulled up a video, and handed it to her. Watch this. The video showed Mr. Harrison's room from a high angle. The timestamp said yesterday, 7 p.m. Mr. Harrison was asleep in his bed. The door opened slowly, and Charlotte slipped inside. Sienna watched as Charlotte approached the bed, looked down at her sleeping father for a long moment, then reached down and carefully unclasped the pearl necklace from around his sleeping body. No, Sienna realized, not around his body, around Sienna's sleeping form. The video showed Sienna had fallen asleep in the chair by Mr. Harrison's bed, her head tilted back. Charlotte had removed the necklace from Sienna's neck while she slept. "Keep watching," Daniel said quietly. The video continued. Charlotte held the necklace, looked at it, and then her face crumpled. She was crying, Sienna realized, crying silently as she clutched the pearls that should have been hers. Then Charlotte straightened, wiped her eyes, and left the room. The timestamp jumped forward 15 minutes. Charlotte entered again, this time heading straight for the guest house via the connecting hallway. "I don't have cameras in the guest house," Daniel said. That felt like too much of an invasion. But the timestamp shows she was in there for exactly 3 minutes, long enough to plant the necklace in your bag. Sienna couldn't speak. "There's more," Daniel continued. "I went back further. 2 days ago, late at night, Charlotte was in my office. She opened my desk drawer, wrote down something. I'm betting it was the safe combination, and then she opened the safe itself. She knew I kept a written copy of the combination in my desk just in case. She planned this whole thing." "Why are you showing me this now?" Sienna asked, her voice shaking. "Because you were right. Charlotte set you up, and I was an idiot for believing her." Daniel's voice was rough with emotion. "I confronted her 20 minutes ago, showed her the footage. She broke down, admitted everything. She said she just wanted you gone, that she couldn't stand watching Dad be happy with Alice's ghost when he was never that happy with her, when she was actually here." Sienna looked down at Mr. Harrison, still peacefully asleep, his hand wrapped around hers. "She's not wrong, you know," Sienna said softly, "about him favoring Alice. I saw the photo albums. Every picture he's looking at Alice, even when Charlotte is right there." "I know," Daniel said. "That doesn't excuse what she did, but I understand why she did it. Charlotte has spent her whole life trying to earn Dad's love, and she never could, because he gave it all to Alice. And when Alice died, he still gave it all to Alice. There was nothing left for Charlotte. Where is she now? I told her to leave, to go back to Paris or London or wherever she wants to go. But she's not welcome here anymore. Not after this." Daniel's jaw was tight. "I told her if she ever tries to contact Dad again, I'll file charges for theft and fraud." "Daniel, I know she's my sister. I know she's hurting. But what she did to you, trying to destroy your life because she was jealous, that's unforgivable." Sienna gently extracted her hand from Mr. Harrison's, stood up, and walked to the window. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. "I need time," she said, "to think about whether I want to come back, whether I can come back." "I understand. Take all the time you need. The guest house is yours for as long as you want it. Your salary will continue whether you're working or not. And," Daniel's voice broke, "I'm sorry, Sienna. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I should have known better. I should have trusted you." Sienna turned to look at him. He looked destroyed, his eyes red, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion and guilt. "You should have," she agreed. "But I understand why you didn't. Charlotte is your sister, and I'm just someone you hired a week ago." "You're more than that," Daniel said quietly. "You gave my father peace. You gave him happiness. You gave him his daughter back, even if only in his mind. That makes you family too." Sienna didn't know what to say to that. Mr. Harrison stirred in his sleep, murmuring something about breakfast in school. Sienna walked back to the bed, tucked the blanket around him, and pressed a gentle kiss to his forehead. "I'll think about it," she told Daniel. "But right now, I need to go home. I need to be with my daughter and my mother. I need to figure out what I want." "Can I drive you?" "I have my car. Can I at least walk you out?" Sienna nodded. They walked through the mansion in silence. At the front door, Daniel stopped her. "For what it's worth, I do trust you. I know I didn't prove it when it mattered, but I do. And whatever you decide, thank you for coming back tonight. Thank you for putting his needs above your own hurt. That says more about your character than Charlotte's lies ever could." Sienna walked to her car without responding. As she drove away, she looked in the rearview mirror and saw Daniel standing in the doorway, watching her leave, looking more alone than she'd ever seen him. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nancy. "Whatever you decide, know that you changed his life, even if only for a little while. That matters." Sienna pulled over, rested her forehead on the steering wheel, and finally let herself cry. 3 days passed. 3 days of Sienna helping her mother with medication in borrowed space, of Emma asking when they could go back to the big house with the garden, of Sienna lying awake at night, thinking about an old man who believed his daughter had come back to him. On the 4th day, her phone rang. "Daniel." "Don't hang up," he said immediately. "Just listen. Dad is getting worse. He won't eat. He barely sleeps. He sits by the window all day waiting for you. The doctor says his heart can't take much more stress. Sienna, I know I have no right to ask, but—" "I'm coming back," Sienna interrupted. Silence. "You are." "Not for you," Sienna said firmly, "and not for your money, though God knows I need it. I'm coming back for him. Because he needs me, and because I need him too. He's not my father, and I'm not his daughter, but somehow we're family anyway. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." Daniel's voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you. God, Sienna, thank you. But there are conditions," Sienna continued. "Charlotte doesn't come back. Not while I'm there. I can't work in a house where someone is actively trying to destroy me. She's gone. She left for Paris yesterday. I told her not to come back until Dad doesn't remember any of this anymore. And I want a formal contract, in writing, with clear terms about my job, my salary, and protection from false accusations. I'll have my lawyers draw it up today. And Daniel, if you ever doubt me again, if you ever choose to believe suspicions over the person I've proven myself to be, I'm gone. No second chances. Understood." Understood. 2 hours later, Sienna pulled up to the Harrison mansion again. This time, she wasn't running away. She was coming home. Nancy met her at the door with tears in her eyes. "He's been calling for you nonstop. Come on." They found Mr. Harrison in the family room, sitting in his chair, staring out the window. He looked smaller, somehow frailer, like the past 3 days had aged him years. "Dad," Sienna said softly from the doorway. He turned and his face crumpled. "Alice, is it really you?" "It's really me." She walked to him, knelt down by his chair, and took his hands. "I'm sorry I was gone so long. I got held up, but I'm back now. I thought I lost you again." He whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I thought they took you away like before. I thought, shh, it's okay. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." He pulled her into a fierce hug, and Sienna felt her own tears start to fall. This man who wasn't her father, this job that wasn't really a job, this life that wasn't really her life, but somehow it was all real anyway. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Mornings with Mr. Harrison, afternoons with Emma in the garden, evenings playing piano. Daniel kept his distance, giving Sienna space, but always checking in, making sure she had everything she needed. One evening, about a month after she'd returned, Daniel found her in the library. "Can we talk?" Sienna marked her page and set down her book. "Sure." Daniel sat in the chair across from her, looking uncomfortable in a way she'd never seen him before. "I have a proposition for you," he started, "and I want you to know there's no pressure. If you say no, nothing changes. Your job is secure. The guest house is yours. Everything stays the same." "Okay," Sienna said warily. "I've been thinking about your future. You mentioned once that you had to drop out of college when Emma was born. You were studying nursing. That was a long time ago. What if you could finish?" Daniel leaned forward. "I've been looking into it. You could complete your degree online at your own pace. I would pay for all of it, tuition, books, everything. You could study during Dad's afternoon naps in the evenings after he goes to bed." Sienna stared at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because you deserve it. Because you're smart and capable and you gave up your dreams to take care of your family. Because—" He paused. "Because you've given my father the greatest gift anyone could give him. You've given him back his daughter, even if only in his mind. That's worth more than any degree I could buy." "Daniel, I can't accept. Please don't say no yet. Just think about it. You could finish your nursing degree, get a better job someday when Dad—" He didn't finish that sentence. They both knew how it ended. You'd have a real career, financial security for Emma and your mother, a future. Sienna felt tears prick her eyes. "You've already given me so much." "I've given you a job. I want to give you a life." That night, Sienna sat in her room in the guest house, Emma asleep, in the next room her mother reading in bed. She pulled out her old college transcripts, looked at the courses she'd completed, calculated how many more she'd need to finish. It was possible. She could do this. She could actually finish what she'd started all those years ago. The next morning, she told Daniel yes. 6 months later, Sienna sat at her laptop in the library working through her final nursing exam. Mr. Harrison dozed in his chair, nearby sunlight streaming through the window, the sound of Emma's laughter drifting in from the garden where she played with Margaret. "How's the test going?" Daniel asked, poking his head in. "Almost done." Sienna typed her last answer, hit submit, and waited. The screen loaded. Passed. Congratulations. She'd done it. After all these years, all the false starts and broken dreams, she'd actually done it. "I passed," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Daniel, I passed." He grinned that rare full smile she'd only seen a handful of times. "I never doubted you." Mr. Harrison stirred in his chair. "What's all the excitement about?" "Alice just finished her nursing degree," Daniel told him. Mr. Harrison's face lit up. "Did you really? Oh, sweetheart, I'm so proud of you. This calls for a celebration. We should have a party. Invite all your friends from school." Sienna walked over and hugged him. "That sounds perfect, Dad." As she held him, she caught Daniel's eye over Mr. Harrison's shoulder. There was something in his expression, something warm and proud, and maybe a little bit more than professional. But that was a complication for another day. That evening, the household staff surprised Sienna with a small party. Nancy had baked a cake, the chef prepared a special dinner, and even Richard stopped by to offer congratulations. Mr. Harrison insisted on making a toast. He stood at the head of the table, a glass of sparkling cider in his hand, looking more lucid and present than he had in weeks. "To my daughter Alice," he said, his voice strong, "who never gave up even when things were hard, who came back to me when I needed her most, who makes me proud every single day." To Alice, everyone echoed. Sienna raised her glass, tears streaming down her face, and didn't bother correcting him. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, Sienna stood in the garden under the stars. She heard footsteps behind her and knew without turning that it was Daniel. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for giving me this chance, for believing in me even after I stopped believing in you," Daniel finished. "I'll spend the rest of my life making up for that, Sienna." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "He's getting worse," Daniel said quietly. "The doctor says we probably have another year, maybe 2, if we're lucky. And then I'll have been his daughter for as long as I could." Sienna finished. "That's enough. Is it because you're going to lose him too? You're going to grieve for a man who isn't really your father." "He is my father," Sienna said firmly. "Maybe not by blood, but in every way that matters. He's loved me like a daughter. He's been proud of me like a father. He's given me a family I never thought I'd have. That's real, Daniel. The Alzheimer's doesn't make it less real." Daniel reached out and took her hand. "You're an extraordinary person, Sienna Carter. I'm just someone who showed up when I was needed. No, you're someone who stayed when it got hard. That's the difference." They stood there hand in hand under the stars, while inside the mansion, an old man slept peacefully, dreaming of the daughter who'd come back to him. And maybe Sienna thought that's what family really was. Not who you were born to, but who chose to stay. Who chose to love you and let you love them back in whatever way you could. She'd started this journey as a broke, desperate single mother taking a strange job to survive. She'd ended it as a daughter, a nursing graduate, and someone who finally understood that home wasn't a place. It was the people who made room for you in their hearts, even when their minds had started to forget the difference between past and present memory and hope loss and love.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.